I'm gonna be real with y'all. That's black folks in general. It ain't even just black women. Brothers, we doing that shit. There's niggas up in the goddamn office doing the same shit. When I say that the office was empty, I wasn't just saying black women were the ones ditching the job on the time. We was all milking the system. That was
no
all
black
of
men in
us.
office.
Like, I'm just talking like, because when like I said, I worked in the bottom, like I worked in it where you only got paid like $10 to $15 an hour jobs. You know what I mean? Before I became a barber. So that's where we mostly congregated. We was all going through call center. I'm from Middle America, Indiana. We was bouncing from call center to call center, and you will see the same person, and you'll be and you get fired, and for 6 months you'll wait, and then you'll go work at another call center, and you come right back to that call center job 6 months later. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, Paris is right, but that wasn't just women, it was all of us. We all figure out a way to work the system. We all figure out a way to get the most time off and still try to either get paid for it, or we'll rack up occurrences when we need them. We're the first ones to call off. The last one, we the first ones to get, if the clock strikes our time to get off of the work, we leaving, going home.
Which say like everybody had COVID too, right? To get the time off.
Everybody had COVID. Like I'm being for real. Like, she's not lying. I work with regular black folks. And
everybody milked the COVID, bro. Everybody milked the COVID.
When I say that, if your shift said you started at 8 and you was off at 11, the boss couldn't even come over there and tell you to stay to 10. I'm off at I said you off at 11. They couldn't come over there and tell you to stay through midnight. I'm going home. I'm clocking out. We weren't working like that's the reality of the situation. And I'm just talking about the general black population. I'm not talking about people who are up, you know what I mean, up there, you know what I mean, because those are far and few between.
I just don't like the idea of this myth that we respect this idea of work. No, we don't. Like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm happy Sweeney did bring in the men, even though the conversation was solely talking about black women, or we made it about black women. I just want us to stop this lie that we have all of this unorthodox respect for these workforce industries, regardless if we're going to get the profession or not. Because what we see today is, even with the women who are going to get the professions, a lot of times we're using the benefit of tuition reimbursement to go and do our own thing. We have seen a high influx of black women become business owners because we don't want to work for nobody. That does not translate into respect.
Look, I think y'all framed the conversation wrong, right? Like, y'all talking about jobs and stuff like that, and yeah, in jobs they don't, everybody's gonna try to finesse, but I feel like what the conversation is really about is about status, right? The conversation is really about when women are in positions that they believe comes with a certain level of status, they then treat that position or whatever's paying them the income at a higher status level than they're treating their man, right? So y'all are talking about like call center jobs and jobs where you can finesse, and that's cool, but respectfully, that's not real corporate America. In real corporate America, there's no finessing. Like you finesse at jobs, you finesse at call centers, you finesse at UPS. You don't finesse at Goldman Sachs. You're not finessing at JP Morgan. You're not finessing at Chase Corporate. You're not finessing at VP of Citibank.
That's right.
What do you think networking is? Networking is the art of finesse. You absolutely are.
I understand.
You can't finesse your job.
Yes,
right,
or you'll get fired.
What I'm saying is,
depending on the type of job you have. It depends on the type of job you have.
We're talking about women with high status careers, right? So I don't feel like this applies to women with jobs. This applies to women with high status careers.
I don't think that would be the anomaly.
It's like the women with high status
anomalies.
It's not an anomaly. I'm gonna tell you why it's not an anomaly, right?
What percentage of black women work in high status jobs?
Wait, let him finish.
Why it's not an anomaly is because even though the woman herself might not be in a high status position, that doesn't mean that the person she's employed by is in high status. So what we're really talking about is, like, if the person she's employed by is considered high status, then that's where you find the discrepancy, where they tend to respect that person of high status more than their partner. So it's not any boss, obviously. If the manager of the call center don't got really no status, he driving an Altima just like y'all. But when the manager is driving a Benz and goes to trips to Bora Bora and whatever, and he's getting $250 a year, yeah, that's somebody with status. And best believe a lot of men are gonna have difficulty with their woman respecting Chad that's flying out to Bora Bora every weekend more than her husband that's a plumber. So yes, it has to do with status. I don't think it's just about the position of job, but you cannot say and act like black women of all women don't respect status.
Clout. Majority of the call centers I worked in, the owner probably was in the same room.
Call center, it's not a high-end job. That's what he's talking about.
No, he said. Wait. He said,
I worked in a call center before, and the owner was barely making it. Like, what are we talking about? Like the call center owner was barely clearing 150, 120 a year. Like, what are we even talking about? Like that's not corporate America. I'm sorry. Like, call centers pop up and close down all over. When we talking corporate America, we talking VPs, we talking Fortune 500s. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree with
access to VPs.
I agree with that.
Listen, I don't know the black women that y'all know. Listen, respectfully, I don't know the black women that y'all know. Respectfully, but the black women I know is getting to that.
About the black women you know? What percentage of black women got access to VPs?
But the percentages, you keep mentioning the percentages. You got to also look at how many of the percentages are hidden because they don't want them to see.
Listen, it is not hard for a woman to have a boss that is higher status than her partner. Like, come on, let's be realistic here.
No, that's not my point.
It is not hard. She could be. It don't matter. It's not hard.
But the percentage is also, you gotta look
at
access to VP. One at a time.
Sweetie, you said you had numbers, right? Paris, you said you had numbers.
What number would you like?
At?
What number would you like?
What's the percentage of women that's going ahead and getting these careers? Both of y'all was talking about numbers. I just want to know what they are.
We know simply by pay scale that majority of black folks don't earn that type of money. What percentage of them got access to
You don't have to earn that type of money.
It doesn't matter. We're talking about a hierarchy. We're not talking about, you keep trying to make it money. We're talking about a hierarchy.
So who are we talking about?
A hierarchy.
A hierarchy of who?
A hierarchy.
Of who?
Listen, if you work in a bank, right?
And the woman, the boss and the woman.
If your wife works in a bank and there's one investment banker in there making $500,000 a year, that's a status conflict. Like, you can't act like just because she's not an investment banker herself, and she ain't gonna run into them at the bank. Like, what are we even talking about here?
Bro.
That's what we're talking about. Bro. She's seeing that guy who's the investment banker.
You're talking about a woman being a teller, having access to the investment banker in the building, bro. You walk in a bank, there's only 3 tellers in the bank. What are we talking about?
I don't know what banks you go to.
The biggest employer of black folks is the post office.
Y'all want to play in my face? I went and got the numbers, and I pulled up status of women data.org. The lowest earning state is Mississippi. And so if you didn't know, now you know. Because I done did this before. I done ran this rigmarole. Mississippi, the average black woman is making $25,000 a year. If you also did not know, the DC area is the highest earning income area of black people. And with the DC area, which is primarily orchestrated of a lot of high-powered black women, the highest income level of a black woman is $64,210. That's on average. They're not making the money. They're not in the areas. You guys are liars, and you're bad at it.
No.
But here we go. But wait, time out. Before we do that, that's not what we asked for. We knew about the income. I know about the incomes. I know Mississippi, bro. I know that, but that's not what I asked for. We didn't ask for that.
64,000 is still several thousands above the national average.
Women who are not in the position, because even 64,000 in DC, the average black married couple makes 67,000. So a black woman in DC, the highest earner, is approximately making on average 64,000. Doesn't mean that there are not women in DC. That does not mean that there are not women in DC making over 100K, but that's on average if she's the average individual. Even with that, she's still under the poverty line. It takes over 100K to live in DC. And even with that, she's still making $3,000 lesser than a married black couple on average. So even with you saying what you're saying, you are working around an anomaly, because we're speaking to average women. The average black woman is going to work. The average black woman is getting married. The average black woman is not giving her boss more respect. The average black woman is not in these corporate VP settings that you are prioritizing over them being in Walmart.
Why is that?
See, that's what you're making it. Why you keep making that? You keep bringing up the numbers, but it doesn't matter because those
Tell
aren't
me
the
that the
numbers
women
that we
makes nothing to
needed.
do with
We're
it.
talking about a hierarchy.
Let Trev respond. Go ahead, Trev.
I was talking about a hierarchy. We're not talking about how much a person makes. A person could be working at the fast food store, and the dude that's up there, he's the manager. She could respect that manager. She could respect that. Just you making it seem like if somebody's not making $100,000 a year, they're not going to have a respect for their job. That doesn't make any sense. Some people love their job. When I was making $7 an hour, I had respect for my job, and nobody can't tell me different. That's what I'm talking about. You bringing up these numbers means nothing because that's not what we were asking for. We're talking about a hierarchy, not monetarily. That's what you're getting.